too. I like games too.
Hey, I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. Welcome to this video where I am going to share with you my best games of 2017. This is, I don't know, I wanted to put together some kind of a video looking back at 2017 and da-da-da, but how do you let people know in a short, concise way what that is without giving a big, long title, blah, 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 blah. I don't know what you might be used to or what your expectations are for a best of 2017 video, but buckle up, this probably won't meet them. Best in this video. Best equals most favored by Peter Franson when compared to a limited sample of alternatives. I have my own tastes and you have yours. I chose to partake of certain games and chose not to partake of others, and so if you're looking for that kind of objective quote-unquote evaluation of the gaming industry as a whole, then this isn't the place you want to be. I'm going to basically over the course of talking about the games that I played in 2017, the end result of all that will be to give away 3 awards, one for the best legacy game of 2017, one for the best game of 2017, and one for the most thought-provoking game of 2017. And of course, like the definition of best, thought-provoking should be taken in a very relative blah 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 blah. It's funny, at some point I want to do maybe a video series on just the nature of reviews, the nature of the way we talk about entertainment online, and how we talk about things that are subjective in nature in terms of our experience of them, but we use objective terms to talk about that was the best, that was bad, that was good, you know. Anyway, that's a different video series. The best legacy game of 2017. Now, this award goes to the game I most enjoyed during 2017 that was actually published before 2017. I just enjoyed it in the year of 2017. Sacred 2 Fallen Angel, which I played on the Xbox 360, grabbed me with its open world / Diablo clone hybrid gameplay. I really enjoyed that a lot. Wolfenstein: The New Order was a great new experience that had me caring about video game characters more than I have in, I think, well over a decade. In the realm of tabletop games, One Deck Dungeon became an instant favorite for taking on vacations. It's a solo dungeon crawl with multiple classes, skill trees, looting. It's got a campaign system where your character can develop and become stronger over multiple play sessions, and all of this fits into the pocket of my cargo shorts. Holy crap, that was awesome. What a great find. But I reviewed the Assassin's Creed movie in December of 2016. Now, I had issues with that movie, but I found the world fascinating and had never played the games before, and the movie really kind of piqued my interest for the game series. So I gave the games a try for the first time starting at the tail end of 2016 and really going into 2017. I finished the first game in early 2017 and just continued through the series all year long. I really enjoyed the gameplay. Now, I reached Assassin's Creed 3 a few months ago and finally became fed up with a few frustrating conventions of the series. So Assassin's Creed 3 was the first one that I chose not to finish, and I just watched cutscenes of the story online, before moving on to Black Flag, which I've also kind of hit in a snag, and I'm like, I think I'm losing patience for some of these missions, and that's specifically those insta-fail stealth missions, where it's like, if you get seen, insta-fail, or if you don't do something in a certain amount of time, insta-fail, I hate those kinds of missions. So I've lost a lot of patience for that, but those games, I still really love the basic gameplay, and if I hadn't played those, I never would have tried Assassin's Creed Origins, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and I'm glad I did try that game. But that basic gameplay, as I said, I really enjoyed, and the visual and auditory design of these games, it just puts me in the game world so effectively, especially the auditory design, all the little sounds while your character's is moving around or doing the parkour and stuff. There's just a lot of nice attention to auditory detail in those games. And so, yeah, I really got a kick out of them. I'm also in strong disagreement with, yet still interested in, Ubisoft's wildly imaginative rewriting of biblical history, which is done in several, especially of the early games in this series. The fact that Ubisoft's writers think that Jesus accomplishing his miracles through the use of an alien-powered soup cape of some kind, the fact that they think that that's even a remotely viable alternative, I think says something about something sobering about how little the average person understands the nature of biblical history, the reliability of these documents, and what they say about events that took place in history. The writing in these games really gave me a lot to think about as I consider, what small role I can possibly play through Christian Geek Central to help increase understanding about the Bible. So it was a very rich experience on a couple different levels for me, playing through the as much as I have so far of the Assassin's Creed series. Also from Ubisoft, Far Cry Primal was a title I really enjoyed and finished in 2017. I'm a recent fan of the Far Cry games, and although Far Cry Primal was missing the gunplay that I enjoy in that series, and that is kind of, I have to admit, a bit of a defining characteristic, the core gameplay was still there in Far Cry Primal, and and gave me still a lot of that Far Cry goodness. Beyond that, I even went back and explored a number of great user-created maps for Far Cry 4 in 2017. So lots of Far Cry stuff going on. On top of even that, I gave Watch Dogs 2 a try as well in early 2017. This is another Ubisoft game. After discovering how puzzle-oriented it was, as opposed to the more maybe like Saints Row open city type experience that I was hoping for, I only played it off and on most of 2017. But late in 2017, I realized how I could earn some easy experience points and cash to improve my equipment, which then allowed me to take on missions at a faster, less puzzly pace, a more just kind of reckless, fun pace. I don't know what that means, but anyway, I finished 2017 with Watch Dogs 2 as actually one of my favorite games to put in and play. So although in the future I think this award, Best Legacy Game of the Year, will go to just one single game each year, this year I have to start off by breaking that rule in light of the Assassin's Creed series, by playing that for the first time, enjoying so much of Far Cry 4 and Far Cry Primal and Watch Dogs 2, and in the end I just have to simply say that my best legacy game of last year was actually a software publisher, not a single game. So for me, 2017 was a great year for gaming, and will likely long be remembered by me as the year of Ubisoft. All right, now we're getting into the best game of 2017. I'm going to do a quick rundown of the video games and board games that I played that were released in 2017 in order from least to most greatly favored by me as they stand in my mind at this very moment that I'm recording. Number 10. Mass Effect Andromeda. The place where I left that game and my thoughts on it was basically, this is just not the kind of game for me. It feels more like a shooter than an RPG. The series started as an RPG series and gradually became more and more of basically just a regular shooter. And that's really where I feel it is now, just a shooter with a lot of heavy, story elements. But I didn't find the story or the characters interesting to me at all. I didn't feel invested in them. I didn't care about what anybody wanted because I didn't really get a sense of what they wanted and what it would mean to them to not get what they wanted. I have to be invested in the motives of the characters in order to really care about the story at all. But that's not even really pivotal because I don't play games for their stories, I play them for the gameplay, and for me it just wasn't doing anything for me. I think I've discovered that in my closing remarks for my trial and error videos, I tend to be more positive on a game than I ultimately end up feeling about them. In this one I said, I'll hang on to my game save, maybe if it's in a bargain bin someday I'll pick it up and da-da-da-da. I'm not optimistic about that at all. I think that there are just so many games coming out today that I would rather play. If this would have been like maybe 20 years ago when not near as many games of my type were coming out, then I would settle for playing a game like this and maybe get some enjoyment out of it. But there's so many more games of the type that I enjoy coming out today that I just don't even have to bother giving a game like Mass Effect Andromeda a second look. So I'm not gonna.
Number 9.
Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. I enjoyed creating this video. I didn't necessarily enjoy playing it all the time. It was very intense for me. If you saw my trial and error video for Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, I was singing a lot of the time to try and just, I don't know why I was singing. Maybe just to make myself not scared, or to be entertaining for you, I suppose. This is not my kind of game. In my closing thoughts, I said that I might pick this up sometime. Again, if it's in a bargain bin sometime, and specifically to have on hand for like the Extra Life Marathon that I participate in once a year, because a scary game like this would be helpful to keep me awake at about 3 a.m. Here's the thing though, since then, I've done 2 Extra Life Marathons where I did not have to tap into any scary games in those key hours from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. in order to stay awake. I found that I could stay awake playing other kinds of games. But I think more and more the only way I'm going to end up playing horror games during a live stream is based on maybe like as an award, or incentive for donations for Extra Life or something like that. So I really have no reason to play this game. I don't enjoy playing scary games, but there is a little voice in my head that, even though I would not play this game for fun, was saying to me, this is a cool game. This is well made. This has a lot of aesthetic things that you like. So in that regard, I don't like having it so high up on my list here, as if like, oh, I hate this is a bad thing, or, this is a lame game or something like that. I just don't favor it hardly at all as something that I would ever come back to.
Number 8.
We got a board game now, Gloomhaven. Boy, I really had hopes that Gloomhaven was at last going to be the D&D in a box experience that I've been looking for, that I could play cooperatively with friends, or solo, better yet, which is better for my schedule these days. A lot of people were calling this thing D&D in a box, D&D in a box. And I can see why they would say that. The thing is, what D&D is to one person is going to be something totally different to another. Why do you, if you play paper and pencil or role-playing games, why do you play those games? Think about that for a second. There are some people who I know, they play those things for a tactical experience. They want to get into the nitty-gritty of the rules. They want to maximize all of the abilities at their disposal so that they can pull off this amazing tactical victory. That is like what D&D is for a good amount of people. Other people, they don't care about the rules so much. They might even dislike combat and have no interest in combat, and might be there for totally the role-play experience, for interacting with NPCs and having interesting moments in that part of the game. I'm somewhere in the middle. I like combat, but I don't like getting into the nitty-gritty of rules. I don't like to... I'm not into heavy tactics where it's just like a puzzle that I'm staring at and like... And that's what Gloomhaven felt like a lot to me. It felt like this is a very tactical puzzle type of game. Some people seem to be aware of it being marketed that way. As I was looking at reviews and things like that, that wasn't the type of thing that I was hearing. So I tried to make an informed purchase. I was aware of how the combat system worked. It wasn't until I got it in front of me that I saw how kind of abstract it felt. It's got a rich, deep world. There is so much gameplay hours in that. There are so many gameplay hours in that box. It boggles my mind to think about. But you progress so slowly, be it through experience or loot, that I don't feel my characters growing more powerful at the rate that I want them to. And the combat mechanisms themselves are very abstracted. For example, you might have a potion card that you can use, that after you use it, you have to tap it, set it aside. That makes sense. You drink the potion's gone. But then maybe after resting, you can get that item back. Well, maybe that makes sense. Maybe you've got a supply and you can only have one on your belt at a time. I don't know. What's even more strange is when that kind of mechanic is attached to something like armor, where you can use the armor that is covering your chest to mitigate damage for a hit, and then you don't have access to that armor for the next hit until you've rested somehow. What are you, repairing your armor in the middle? I don't get it. Same with your attack options. Why not have the same kind of just attack option every turn if you want to just do a simple weapon attack? No, you use that attack, and then it's kind of like taken a way out of your live options for combat until you can get it back into your hand at some point. So I would believe a person if they told me, boy, this is brilliantly designed. The logic, the moving parts, it's just a work of art. I would believe someone if they told me that. The problem is, those mechanisms feel like they just have the fantasy elements, the theme, painted on top of them for me. I don't feel like I'm using a weapon, drinking a potion, being protected by armor. I just feel like I'm using cards at the time that I'm legally allowed to use them according to the rules. I've hung on to my copy of Gloomhaven, one, because I think it'll be a pain in the butt to try and sell it online, which is probably the route I would try to go, but also because they have lots of cool stand-up minis, you know, like just flat cardboard paint, you know, but color printed minis of monsters and stuff like that, that I can imagine being useful in other games that use fantasy miniatures. So there's some really neat components. So it's not off of my shelf yet, and it might be a while that it still stays on my shelf, but I don't know when I would ever play this game as it is in the box again.
Number 7.
All right, number 7 it's a tie. I just couldn't decide which one belonged, you know, somewhere else on the list, and also I only had little counting clips for 10 through 1. So first in the number 7 slot is the game Elix. I really wanted to like this game. I still want to like it. I love this crazy blend of post-apocalyptic sci-fi and magic thrown together. It's a, you know, very kind of Thundar Barbarian kind of vibe that I really dig just visually this world. I like some of the concepts in there. Your protagonist is voiced in a very flat way, but that potentially makes sense given his background. The problem is, if you want it to continue making sense, you're forced to play him in a certain way. I don't know. I wish I would have been given a blank slate, you know, like other open world RPGs, to just kind of create my own character. But the biggest problem I have in the game is the combat. The controls are so slow to respond. Oh, that quick attack doesn't feel very quick. Oh yeah, that is slow. Look at this. Click, swing. That's my quick attack. Click, swing. Oh man. Heavy attack. Click, swing. Oh my gosh. What is this, an RTS or an action RPG? It becomes kind of a game in and of itself to get the timing of your attacks. Boom. And kind of anticipate, you know, like click in advance when you want to hit, you know. And that's, I don't want to play a little mini game of like gaming the game. I just want to have the controls respond quickly so I can feel more like I'm actually engaging and interacting with the world rather than this go-between of this timing mechanism involved in when you have to press the button in order to get your guy to react and swing his club, you know, at the time that you actually want him to swing at. And then combine that with the fact that the difficulty is really punishing, even on the easiest difficulty level. Punishing for me. I know someone or many people out there are going to say, oh, you're terrible at games. Okay, well, if you watch my trial and error videos, I say that at the beginning of every one of my games. I really am terrible at games. But I also know that I am far from the only person that is complaining and having this same issue with this game. Now, I did find an exploit, like a cheat, that would allow me to basically get as much gold as I could, you know, possibly have, you know, just an infinite amount, so that I could buy potions that would permanently up my stats and I could get the best equipment and stuff like that. So I'm in a place now in my game save where combat isn't necessarily scary anymore. It's not really a difficult thing, and so that is out of the way. But the combat still isn't fun. And again, it's not because it's too easy. It's because ultimately it's not responsive. I got past the difficulty hurdle by, you know, taking advantages of some glitches and stuff. But at the end of the day, the combat still has the same response issues that just make me feel not really engaged in the way I feel like there's this go-between of this game mechanism between me and my ability to kind of, in a sense, role play in those combat moments. And although there are elements of the world that I find a little bit interesting, the combat, I don't know, the world and characters aren't interesting enough to me to make it worth my time to push through what is just kind of boring and disconnected combat. Second in the number 7 slot, Agents of Mayhem. The final thoughts I shared in my trial and error video were that I liked the game. I didn't $60 like it, but I liked it if, at maybe a $40 price point. Here's the thing though. I did play it some more that night, and I played it maybe 1 or 2 more nights. Haven't touched it since then. There was when I left off one mission that it was like, oh, this is a timed mission, this is stupid, I hate this. But I think I just kind of lost patience. I don't think it was too difficult. I was just a little bit annoyed and I thought, oh, you know what? This other game sounds like fun right now. And that's the thing with me and Agents of Mayhem. There's always been some other game in my collection that I'm thinking, that would be more fun. Let's do that. If I was given the choice, it's like you have to choose Elex or Agents of Mayhem to play next, I would say Agents of Mayhem, absolutely. But that's only if I'm forced to choose between those two. So even though they occupy the same slot, the likelihood of me playing either one of them again is about the same, just because there are other games, so many other games, that I'm probably going to be more in the mood to play than either Agents of Mayhem or Elex. Agents of Mayhem was just kind of like cool, chill out, kind of arcadey, open world type of action. The humor totally fell flat for me, but I liked some of the systems, the abilities, the different ability types, kind of the different roles that your various characters played as a ranged person or as a tank or whatever. I mean, even just talking about it again, I'm like, maybe I should reinstall that. But I think as soon as I did, I would say, you know what? I'm kind of digging on this game a little more right now. Let me play this one. It's crazy that as gamers today, there's just an embarrassing wealth of options, so that, there's no point in even spending time with mediocre or even good anymore, unless you just have tons and tons and tons of time, which I do not.
Number 6.
Number 6. Okay, now we're getting into some significantly better games. Prey. I'm drawn to it because of all the things that it has in common with a game like BioShock. It's got this strange environment that you're exploring. You're kind of trying to figure out what happened here while you were gone or before you arrived. It's dark and creepy, and you're gaining abilities throughout the game. It is more puzzly, in my experience, than the BioShock games, where you kind of at times have to figure out, okay, how do I get from A to B? How do I accomplish the thing that I need to accomplish here in order to advance the story or get access to a new area? Because of that, sometimes at the end of a long work day, I've been focusing and using my brain, for a lot of the day, that at the end of the day, I'm just done using that part of my brain. I don't want to solve puzzles, in the last 2 hours of my night. So my choice is then, at times, to either not play a game like this, or to play it and have on my computer a walkthrough ready to go to, just tell me whatever the dumb puzzle is so I can get past it. And it's not always like that in Prey. There have been stretches where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I can do this, da-da-da. And then suddenly, either the puzzle gets harder or my brain just isn't working that well, and I'm just like, nope, I'm out. It also uses jump scares a lot, which when I'm casually playing and not doing a live stream or recording for a review or something like that, I'm not wearing headphones, and so it's not as intense as it always is when I have those stinking headphones on. But it's still a more intense experience that I'm sometimes in the mood for, just in the middle of my week. So I like this game. I want to come back to this game. I want to finish this game. I'm just wondering when I'll be in the exact right mood for this game. It's also playing around with a few things interesting philosophically, talking about the nature of human consciousness, what makes us who we are we simply the sum of our memories, those kinds of questions. But we've seen that explored in so many movies and video games, and I think almost always from a naturalistic viewpoint, where there is no non-physical component. I think those questions become much more interesting when you don't assume that there is no non-physical component, when you at least allow for the possibility that there is a non-physical component, such as in the Battlestar Galactica TV series. So I'm always interested when people are playing with themes. It's not as interesting to me when I feel like they're treading the same ground that's been treaded before.
Number 5. Boom, mother trucker!
Cosmic Star Heroine. Until a few months ago, maybe, I might have put this one higher up on my list and not interested in coming back to it. At the time I recorded my trial and error review, I didn't know there was an option in there to actually trigger battles in areas that you're exploring. What I seemed to be experiencing as I played the game was you fight enemies once and then they don't respawn, and so there's no way to grind for experience. But there actually is apparently a way in there I just discovered recently, so that you can grind for experience if you want to, which really changes entirely what this game could be for me. I think it does a really good job of kind of mimicking some of those old school Super Nintendo era RPGs, but with just a few nice modern touches graphically in terms of, like, you know, effects and, you know, lighting effects. What I found that I still don't always have patience for is those in-between dungeon times where you're just supposed to go around talking to everybody until you trigger something that allows you to progress the game. So I'm walking around hitting A next to everybody. Okay, who's the person I need to talk to? Meanwhile, I'm just hearing whatever random thing is that people are saying. Now, it's written in a clever way, and you can tell that the people that made this game are fans of some of the same things that I am and that I grew up playing and stuff. And so that's cool. Even so, because of that kind of element of, like, hey, cool dungeon, hey, cool battles. Oh, okay, now we got to walk around this place and make sure we've talked to everybody if we want to be able to advance the game. You know, I can lose patience for that a little bit. That said, I really do like the combat. I like how you can use these moves and then they kind of wear out and you have to use a different move and stuff. It's actually reminds me, now that I think about it, a little bit of the GLOOMHAVEN combat system, but somehow it doesn't bother me here. I don't know. It's certainly more fast-paced than GLOOMHAVEN.
Number 4.
Speaking of more fast-paced than GLOOMHAVEN, Sword and Sorcery Immortal Souls is in my number 4 slot. Wow, I really, when I bought GLOOMHAVEN, was thinking, GLOOMHAVEN or Sword and Sorcery? GLOOMHAVEN or Sword and Sorcery? And man, I should have waited and gone with Sword and Sorcery. This really was a great experience for me. What made me hesitate when thinking about buying this game was the fact that there was a very limited number of enemy models. It's unfair to say that there's a limited number of enemy types compared to, say, like HeroQuest or something, because you'll get like 3 different colors of the same bandit model, or 3 different colors of the same, I don't know, goblin. It's not goblins, is it? It's something else, maybe some little kind of henchman monster, you know. And it's the same model, I think. Maybe there are little variations. Largely, the only difference is color. You've got the red version, the green version, and the blue version. And they each have different stats. They have different AI behaviors. They have different, like, abilities sometimes. And so they feel a little bit different, each of them. But for some reason, they use the same model. Maybe that's to save money because, you know, making those models can be expensive. Miniatures are expensive. I get that. Even so, that was a big point of hesitation for me, because one of the reasons I like dungeon crawls is to discover some strange new monster around the next corner that I have to figure out and fight and defeat. You know, so it's that variety of monsters that's tended to be a really important thing for me in playing games like HeroQuest and Descent First Edition, thank you very much, you know, and other games like that. What I didn't anticipate, what I don't think I could have, just kind of reading the rule book, was the sense of progression that I felt. The looting in this game is awesome. The sense of progression, it's a much faster pace. Over the course of a single game session, you can really feel the sense of progression and growing power that your character's experiencing just from loot alone. And then at a slightly slower pace, you know, what you're gaining in terms of, like, character abilities. And that's just over one session. There are multiple sessions over which your character is growing more and more throughout all of those. And thematically, it really just clicked with me a whole lot more than GLOOMHAVEN did. I felt like the rules represented what was thematically going on in the story, quote-unquote, of the game than GLOOMHAVEN did. Really great experience once I understood the basic rules. The rule book, has some just kind of like some missing words, and the rule book has issues that sometimes make it hard to understand what they mean as they're explaining certain rules and certain situations and exceptions to rules and stuff. Oof, boy. But if you're like me and you're just playing solo, or if you're just playing with a group of friends who aren't going to get all uptight about the rules, then you can just make a call and keep moving. And if later on you find out, oh, that's not what the rule is, and you happen to like what the rule actually is, then you can use that or not. You know, I mean, it's great that it can be this co-op or solo experience, and I really did enjoy the solo experience. Just like GLOOMHAVEN, I did a video series of my solo experience playing Sword and Sorcery. I hope you consider checking that out. I had a lot of fun playing that game, and I'm looking forward to, not on camera, but off camera, getting back into that game maybe in the next month or so. I think I can easily say, and I might have said this in the wrap-up thoughts of my last video in that series, I think I can say this is Sword and Sorcery Immortal Souls' best board game kind of D&D RPG dungeon crawl experience I've had since Descent First Edition. It didn't blow me away like Descent First Edition did, but that's because there was, Descent First Edition was like the first dungeon crawl game of its type since Hero Quest before it. So there wasn't the newness and the excitement and just the innovation in Sword and Sorcery that there was in Descent when Descent came out. So my experience of Sword and Sorcery still hasn't rivaled my experience with Descent First Edition. But man, I'm really enjoying this game.
Number 3.
My number 3 is Assassin's Creed Origins. Now, I might enjoy playing Sword and Sorcery Immortal Souls actually a little more than playing Assassin's Creed Origins, but you got to do all the setup for Sword and Sorcery Immortal Souls. So Assassin's Creed Origins is just a little bit more favored on my list because it's easier to get out and play. I really enjoyed this game. One thing that I missed from the Assassin's Creed experience was that there was no longer many, if any, choices to make while you're trying to do the parkour. You're basically like Spider-Man in this game. You can just kind of walk up anything. And you don't have to figure out, is that a ledge? Can I grab that? Or I got to scoot over here first. No. You just go wherever you want. And so I miss that a little bit. I don't have this simulated sensation of me having skill, in parkour, which, the other Assassin's Creed games could kind of trick me into feeling. And this game doesn't do that for me, so I miss that a little bit. But everything else I'm really enjoying. It doesn't have the frustrating mission types, at least that I've run into so far, that the Assassin's Creed games typically have, with like insta-fail if you're spotted, or timed missions and stuff like that. It isn't, if there are those types of missions, they're so few and far between, it just doesn't lean on them like my experience of Assassin's Creed games up to and including Black Flag. So I really, really appreciate that. Yes, in many ways that means it doesn't feel like an Assassin's Creed game. There aren't those kind of like sneak up and stealth insta-kills, with your hidden blade like you could in the other Assassin's Creed games. So it doesn't scratch all of my Assassin's Creed itches. But it's this really cool open world action RPG. It kind of answers the question for me, gosh, what do I play now that I'm done with Horizon Zero Dawn? Oh, Assassin's Creed Origins. It really doesn't seem to be playing around thematically with the same philosophical ideas. So far, I'm very early in the game. I'm only about maybe 8 to 10 hours into the game, maybe a little bit more. So far, it's not playing with the same kinds of themes regarding religion and free will and stuff like that, order versus chaos and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't seem to be playing with those as much, but like I said, I'm really early in the game, so I'm looking forward to getting back into it. Really, primarily for the gameplay. Really enjoying Assassin's Creed Origins.
Number 2.
Another tie in my number 2 slot. Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, and Horizon Zero Dawn. Really, really enjoyed both of these games. I'm rethinking my order now, even as I'm recording this. You know what? I would actually swap, sorry. I'm not going to re-record this. I would actually swap now and put Assassin's Creed Origins tied with Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus for my
number 2.
And then put Horizon Zero Dawn back as my
number 3.
The reason for that is, on my list of most favorite games, like what am I most likely to go back to or play? What am I most itching on this list to play? And I think I really enjoyed Horizon Zero Dawn. I think I'm done with it. I haven't bought the Frozen Wilds because I'm like, no, I got that experience. It was a great experience, and I'm done with it. I'm ready for something that's maybe a little bit different. But anyway, I loved Horizon Zero Dawn. The gameplay took a little bit of getting used to because it had just a little bit of that Monster Hunter flavor into it where I had to think differently about each enemy instead of just kind of like spamming attack or something like that. But I really took a liking to like all the component collecting and the crafting and stuff, and it was the first kind of like game that played a lot like Assassin's Creed without the pitfalls in my experiences with the Assassin's Creed games. So I really enjoyed that. Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, holy crap. Definitely more bonkers in the story department than the first one, in ways that I kind of halfway through the game, if you played the game, you know the moment I'm talking about. After this kind of ridiculous point moving forward, I kind of felt a little detached from the game. I wasn't invested emotionally like I was the first half of the game. And so that was just, I don't want to say disappointing, it just didn't have the impact of Wolfenstein the New Colossus, or Wolfenstein the New Order. But man, I still really enjoyed the aesthetic, the gameplay. I really like BJ Blazkowicz as the main character, and just the heart of that character, and how he just wants to be done with war. And the Wolfenstein games remind me a little bit of Farscape in that they are capable of having these just bonkers moments, and then just moments later, they can go to a really heavy moment, back and forth. Somehow it works, at least for me. And when a game can go in crazy, off-the-rails directions and still have me feeling something for the characters, that's an achievement. The cutscenes gave me a reason to go and blow away bad guys on each level. And that's cool to give context to what I'm doing and why I want to take out these bad guys. Number one! My number one game of 2017. The best, remember the definition of best, everybody? The best game of 2017 is one that I didn't even review. I didn't do a trial and error video for. In fact, it's a type of game I normally wouldn't review or talk about because it doesn't have fantastical elements. Usually, for the content I'm creating, because video games are going more and more mainstream, I still try to stick to just those that have fantastical settings with sci-fi, fantasy, or horror elements, or superhero elements, or something like that. And this one is more of like a military kind of setting, military spy, whatever kind of setting. But it did just recently have an event running in December that introduced a sci-fi element. Anyway, won't keep you in suspense any longer. Ghost Recon Wildlands. What the crap? That came out of left field. A friend had been recommending it to me over and over again, and I was like, I don't know. The mission's going to be frustrating. It is a Ubisoft game, and they can make some frustrating missions. What I realized as I was hearing more about Far Cry 5 after playing Assassin's Creed Origins, I was like, oh, I think Ubisoft is understanding that players, maybe players like me, want more openness, want more freedom. They don't want those stupid timed missions and those stealth insta-fail missions. They want you to just be able to tackle these things the way that you want to tackle them. Maybe they're doing a better job of creating missions that are more open-ended like that. And I really felt in my experience that they did in Ghost Recon Wildlands. There are some timed missions, but they're just like these totally optional things you can do off on the sides. I haven't run into any stealth insta-fail missions. It's just this great open world experience, and as much as people in reviews are talking about how the only way to play this is with friends, the only way to play it is, it's a social game, stuff like that, I've totally been playing it solo the entire time and totally enjoying myself. It scratches some of the same itches as a Far Cry game where you're going to outpost type places. You're using stealth, at least this is how I play the Far Cry games. You use stealth to thin out the ranks, and then you go in and guns blazing to take out the rest, And yes, it's repetitive, and yes, it's very samey and stuff, but there's still a sense of progression, and it's just, it's enjoyable. It's samey for me in all the right kinds of ways, So this was a big surprise for me. Ghost Recon Wildlands. It's just a great kind of chill out game that I can play at the end of a night, racing around on different vehicles. I love the motorcycles in Ghost Recon. They could go on anything. You could go on any mountain in these motorcycles. Oh man, there's just so much. I just love navigating the world, and because of for the same reason that I like other Ubisoft games with like the sound design being a big part, and the visual representation of the world. All these Ubisoft games just really do a great job of, I hate to use this kind of buzzword, but immersing me in the experience. So I can't even put my finger on exactly. I feel like because it's my number one, I should talk more at length, but actually I need to go and exercise soon. So I don't know what else I would add. Just really enjoying this game, sometimes for reasons I can't put my finger on. I love its open-endedness. I love it, again, for the same reason that I enjoy the Far Cry games. Ghost Recon Wildlands, what the crap? Finally, my most thought-provoking game of 2017. And I'm going to give that to Horizon Zero Dawn. Although the driving philosophy was predictably and eye-rollingly atheistic, and Aloy struck me anyway. I know she didn't strike everyone else this way. There's a few others I read online felt the same way. Many others didn't. She struck me as kind of an unfortunately arrogant and judgmental messenger for the atheistic or naturalistic worldview. But Horizon Zero Dawn was playing with some philosophical themes that are really worth thinking and talking about. The naturalistic assumptions of sympathetic AI, an attempt at pro-gay advocacy that I think actually works against in this game the kind of compassion and understanding the gay community desires from others. The character Aloy being propped up as a sort of savior slash martyr slash messiah, sound familiar to anyone? And the potential subtle commentary being made about Jesus at the same time. And then also just the general emphasis on the importance of knowledge and truth. And that's something that I can support and find agreement on with the writers of this game, even if I don't think that their search for truth has been consistent. Anyway, I did a 5-part series on the themes of Horizon Zero Dawn that's on this channel that I hope you'll consider checking out if you haven't already. Lots of stuff that I really think is worth exploring, despite the fact that I come down philosophically in a very different place than the writers of this game do. It's still really engaging to look at what they're talking about, how they're talking about it, and deciding what we want to think in light of what they're sharing and the arguments they're sharing for it. And yeah, just interesting stuff. So I always appreciate it when a game can do that for me, whether I agree with the viewpoint or not. And so the most thought-provoking game for me of 2017, Horizon Zero Dawn. Finally, while we're on the topic of video games, I want to celebrate the Christian Geek Central Extra Life team, who raised a grand total of $1,301. Wow, that was way more than I expected for us to raise. And our top fundraiser on our team is Aaron Huey, who raised a total of $401 by the end of 2017. So congratulations, Aaron. And as promised, as the top fundraiser of the Christian Geek Central team, I will now celebrate your name in song on this little obscure YouTube channel. Aaron Huey, if I'm Han Solo, he's my Chewie. Aaron Huey. Oh, wait, no, let's see. In fundraising, he's amazing. He's the best, and that's no hooey. How he's done it, how he's won it, makes my brain all sticky gooey. MVP now, yes sirree now, Aaron Huey. Well, that wasn't a celebration so much as like a creepy serenading of your name, but anyway, thank you very much, Aaron. Awesome. You got to teach me your tricks so that I can keep pace with you a little bit better next year. And again, I want to thank everybody on the Christian Geek Central Extra Life team for all that they gave and how they drew attention to our fundraising working together. Thank you so much, guys. What an awesome, groundbreaking year for our fundraising with Extra Life. Can't wait to do it again this coming fall. It's going to be here before we know it. 2018 in general is looking like it could be another great year for me in gaming. I'm curious about Kingdom Come Deliverance, Conan Exiles, Titan Quest, God of War, The Crew 2, The Church in the Darkness. And those are just the games I'm curious about. I'm excited already for Far Cry 5, Dragon Quest 11, Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night, Spider-Man, and Days Gone. All those games that I think have a really good chance of being great games for me. At the same time, I'm aiming personally to remember what the teacher in Ecclesiastes observes about wealth and about all the things that we can potentially enjoy in life. This is a person who had access to everything that money could buy, and so he had some observations about life in light of that. In Ecclesiastes 1, verses 8 through 11, he actually says, "All things are full of weariness. A man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing." In other words, we have this endless hunger for more and new and greater and better that is kind of never fully satisfied. He goes on saying, "What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done, and there is nothing new under the sun." As I get older and older, I notice, like, yeah, things are less amazing and new and surprising to me anymore, because I just start seeing, things that are being recycled and used again and again and again. It's the writer of Ecclesiastes says, "There's nothing new under the sun. Is there a thing of which it is said, 'See, this is new'?" It has been already in the ages before us. There is no remembrance of former things, nor will there be any remembrance of later things yet to be among those who come after. Later on in chapter 3, verse 11, he says, speaking of God, He has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, He has put eternity into man's heart, yet so that he cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end. So He's put in us this sense of eternity, something bigger, something grander, but we can't wrap our heads around it, but yet we have this vision of it, this kind of longing, dare I say, for it, And then later on in verse 14 of chapter 3, he says, I perceived that whatever God does endures forever. Nothing can be added to it, nor anything taken from it. And I suspect in light of that kind of truth being revealed, Jesus adds to that the ramifications of that in Matthew 6, verses 19 through 20, when he says, do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves do not break in and steal. So this year, I hope to involve myself more in what God is doing, because I think that's an investment that brings fulfillment regardless of circumstances, and that also yields rewards that are going to last forever. So I hope that's something you and I can actually do together in 2018. All right, that's it for now. Stay tuned for my list of best movies of 2017. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
christiangeekcentral.com